with you. And in fact, many years ago, you came to Zurich, where I studied at the university, gave a master class. Not sure if you remember.
Yeah, I do remember. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, you were there a couple of times, or was it that one time that I witnessed?
I think it was just one time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
I,
was.
who is the director at the jazz school?
Well, they changed from time to time,
Okay.
but maybe you got through the vibe teachers there.
I think I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably.
Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah,
Good.
I remembered it because you showed us. I think you picked the standard tune
Yep.
and you took a motive or something and played it all the way through the changes, through the harmonies. It was. I still can remember that vividly. Yeah.
Nice. Nice. Well, it's still it's still a process for me. I mean, improv is never ending. It's
Mm-hmm.
lifelong.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. So, can you see me or can I see? I can't see you, Simon. Should it be that we can see each other or it doesn't matter?
Well, actually, you should see me.
Yeah, I don't see you.
It is not like that.
I
Okay.
did see my picture a
Uh
minute.
huh. Uh
Uh,
huh. Well,
I
let me
just
see.
have a blank screen. There it is. Uh, no,
Still nothing.
still nothing.
That's odd. Yeah.
I
Usually.
Yeah, try that again. I did see something a second ago.
Yeah, but then I'm off the screen. That.
Oh, right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's my room maybe.
Yeah.
Let me
Are
share.
you are you on Google Chrome by any chance?
I don't know. I could
Uh
be.
huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Usually, I never had this before that my guest couldn't see me, so I have no idea what that could be.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe I'll kick you out and you will join again. How
Yeah, you
about
want
that?
to try that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's try that.
Okay.
Any better?
No.
That's strange.
Yeah. Should I
Well,
use Google Chrome, Simon?
yeah, yeah. I'm. Well, it should work on the Safari too. But if you want to try last time
Oh, yeah.
with with the Chrome, that might work.
Okay. Let me try something. Hang on.
Mhm. Because it would just be a bit more interesting to talk to someone you can see. But I can see you, and the viewers can see you too. So
Oh, okay.
at least
Yeah,
that.
that's good. Um, yeah. Let me try get on Google Chrome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it working?
Not yet. No.
Well, you're on. I think we can give it a
Yeah,
try.
that's fine, Simon. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see me. That's fine. And
Yeah. I
I
will send you. I will send you the link so you can watch it afterwards. And you can see yourself and me in the picture. So
That's fine.
yeah,
Sounds nice.
yeah. So I just read that you started as a drummer. Can you tell us a bit more about that, or you still drum around?
Yeah, I still have a drum set, a
Hmm.
nice Gretsch kit. I still play,
Hmm.
not as much as I used to.
Hmm.
Uh, I was a student at Berklee College of Music in Boston from 1972 to 1976, and I right out of high school went to Berklee, studied with a great teacher and great drummer, Alan Dawson, who played with many greats, Sonny Rollins, Dave Brubeck.
Hmm.
He was the he was the guy in town. If anyone came through, like Sonny Stitt and all the great Milt Jackson, all the great players, uh, Alan was the house drummer at many of the jazz clubs. One of the major jazz clubs was the Jazz Workshop in Boston,
Hmm.
and guys like Bill Evans and Chick Corea, Stan Getz, all the greats came through town. And Alan would be the drummer for those guys if they didn't have their own band. So I went to Berklee as a drummer, was into Elvin Jones and Buddy Rich, all the greats, and studying with Alan. And things were going fine until I saw Gary Burton play at a concert. It was a Mike Gibbs band, big band. Gary was the guest soloist. This was my sophomore year, and just one of those moments where it just completely blew me away. Light bulb went off, and I hadn't really heard about the vibes or knew about the vibraphone.
Hmm. Hmm.
And after that, I took Gary for a beginning mallet lab and took his courses. He had a jazz improv course, a business course, and I took private lesson with him
Hmm.
for 2 years. And we worked on piano and vibraphone in the lesson. And he was a great teacher, very patient, organized, supportive. And that was the turning point. I tried to keep up drums, but at the time I was playing piano and vibraphone. It was tough to keep up the drums, so they
Hmm.
sort of went by the wayside. But I still love to play. But it's more at this point, I'm more of a vibraphone player, a piano player.
Hmm.
And then when I graduated in '76, Gary Burton uh, wanted to know if I'd be interested in teaching at Berklee, and I said sure. I was 21 at the time, and so I started teaching in 1976 at Berklee. It's been a long time. I
Hmm.
have a few more years to go.
Right, right. So you played drums as a teenager, and before 20, you switched kind of to the vibes also,
Yeah.
or
I started
something
drums.
like that.
Yeah, I started drums maybe I was 12 and
Hmm.
playing in rock bands. This was in the '70s,
Hmm.
and we were playing a lot of clubs and doing all kinds of material from the '60s and the '70s, from
Hmm.
Hendrix to Cream and
Hmm.
uh, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. I mean, all the great bands. Music was great back then, '60s and '70s. Um, and then, yeah, then I went to Berklee and studied with Alan, and Alan was a great teacher, and I got into more Alvin and Peter Erskine, Jack DeJohnette, those type of players.
Were those
Uh,
guys hanging out at Berkeley too, or?
it was amazing time, the '70s. Uh, I mean, Steve Swallow was there, Matheny was there, John Schofield was there, Bill Frisell, Mike Stern. Um, it was a great period, and Dave Samuels, who also was a great vibe teacher, vibe player, and I took with Dave. Dave was there.
Mhm.
It was amazing time in the '70s to be at Berklee, and there were a lot of jazz clubs, and so yeah, those guys were coming through. We had a lot of players come in to do clinics. Elvin Jones came in to do a clinic. We had all the great drummers. They'd be in town to do the jazz workshop or a jazz club,
Mhm.
and we bring him in to do a clinic. So it was a great period.
So after studying, you started right away teaching at the same place. Is that
Yeah,
more? Yeah.
yeah. I
Mhm.
was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time. Um, I got my music ed degree, and then I just started teaching. I started teaching ear training, solfege,
Mhm.
ensemble, improv.
Mhm.
Back then, full time was 30 hours a week. At now, it's more like 18 hours. But back then, I was teaching 4 or 5 days a week, 30 hours a week, plus doing gigs 5 nights a week. Back
Mhm.
then, the work was there. We could play 5 nights a week at hotels and clubs, you know.
Mhm.
So, but when I switched from drums to vibes, I really had to catch up because uh, I really hadn't played piano and didn't know about harmony, didn't know about improv, didn't know about theory, didn't have good ears, in terms of hearing changes in harmony and tension,
Mhm.
things like that. So I really worked hard, and I sessioned every night, and I would do transcribing in the car on the way in to Boston, commute. I had a tuning fork. I would, every spare minute
Mhm.
was working on my craft, and that's what it takes. I mean, I don't have to tell you that. You know how it is, right?
So I guess you brought the rhythmical side you brought to the table already, but it was more about maybe the harmonies changes that you didn't play on the drums.
Exactly. That's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I wanted to switch
Mhm.
from drums to vibraphone and piano. I couldn't see myself in a practice room playing 8 hours a day working on technique on drums.
Mhm.
I wanted to compose, maybe lead a band,
Mhm.
and it just seems like when I took vibraphone and piano, there's a whole new world in terms of harmony and melody and
Mhm.
improv that drummers, I mean, we just don't have as a drummer. I
Mhm.
mean, we have the rhythmic aspect, but in terms of the harmony and the melody and the improv, we just don't have it.
Mhm. And can you explain me what it is? Like you said, you played the piano too, and on your website, it's kind of written that. Well, I'm putting it into my own words, but something like to play on the vibes like it is to play on the piano. Is that the direction that I understood correctly?
Yes, yes. I mean, in terms of the vibraphone, there's the two mallet school and the four mallet school.
Mm-hmm.
The two mallet school would be Milt Jackson, Bobby Hutcherson, Lionel Hampton,
Mm-hmm.
Stefan Harris, Warren Wolf. I mean, a list of great players and a great history for the two mallet vibraphone. The four mallet vibraphone was more Gary Burton, who really made it popular,
Mm-hmm.
and guys like Dave Samuels and Dave Friedman, and a whole list of players. So there's really two schools of playing. For the four mallet players, it's more like a piano
Mm-hmm.
uh, in terms of playing chords.
Can you play the same voicings with those five fingers, or is it no? Is it
Yeah,
five?
it's four mallets,
Oh,
but with
four.
the
Yeah.
vibraphone we can stack, so I can keep the
Mm-hmm.
pedal down and I can
Mm-hmm.
maybe play a voicing and then on
Mm-hmm.
top of that play an upper structure triad.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a technique called dampening where I can move lines. And this is what, great players like Bill Evans and Keith Jarrett do all the time. They move inner lines in the harmony,
Mm-hmm.
guitar players as well. So with the four mallets and the stacking and the voicings, we can do solo playing like a piano player.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things we can't do, like a stride, Art Tatum type thing we can't do. We can more or less simulate it at times, but for note, we can't really duplicate it.
Mm-hmm.
But coming from the four mallet school, studying with Gary was into Bill Evans and all the great piano players, and that's how he approached the vibraphone, and that's how I really learned.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my CD collection is piano players
Mm-hmm.
from Art Tatum all the way to Chick Corea, Keith Jarrett, Mel Dow, McCoy, Herbie, all the great players.
Mhm. I think these days it's standard that when you learn to play the vibes, is it always you start with 4 mallets right away, or you kind of start with two?
I don't think it's necessarily 4 mallets. I think if you're in the 2 mallet school, uh, you're going to study more just lines,
Mm-hmm.
sax, bebop type lines, great lines, and great players. I mentioned the 2 mallet players.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many more coming up. So it depends on who is teaching the vibraphone. It might be 2 mallets.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a 4 mallet teacher, we tend to start the student right off with 4 mallets,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to two, and then switch later to four.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And maybe you can mention a little bit. I saw that you published a couple of books on different topics, probably vibraphone specific stuff too. Is that the essence? What you what you come up with over the years that you learned?
Yeah. The two latest books you mentioned, Simon, are Voicing Concepts
Mm-hmm.
for the vibraphone player, and the latest one was 50 Etudes for the jazz vibraphone player.
Mm-hmm.
And the 50 Etudes cover things like lines, improv concepts, maybe voicings, technique like dampening, I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And we have 3 other books in the works. One is a solo playing book, solo vibraphone playing.
Mm-hmm.
The next one up is a pedaling and dampening book, which is really extensive. It's almost ready. And then the last one is, I mentioned I studied with Gary for 2 years. Every lesson that I had with Gary, after the lesson, I would sit down and write notes from the lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to put out a book with Gary. Gary approved it already, of those lessons with
Mm-hmm.
Gary Burton, as well as clinics. I transcribed various clinics through the years that Gary gave at Berkeley. And
Mm-hmm.
so that will be included in the book. So there's 3 books coming up. It takes a lot of work to get the material together, get the music ready, the text. I have a good friend who is also a teacher at Berkeley, a vibraphone teacher, Gustavo Agatiello. And Gustavo put all of my books together, including the improv series.
Okay.
And he puts everything ready for the printer, which
Mm-hmm.
is so much work. It's amazing amount of work. So the dampening book should be coming up soon. As far as the other books, the solo book and the Gary Burton lesson book, who knows, But
Mm-hmm.
I'm publishing the books myself, so I have to get everything ready for the printer, and then we print the books, and then we sell the books.
Uh-huh. This is your choice, or there is this Berkeley Press collection?
Yeah, I think these days, Simon, for me, the best way to go is self-publishing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Sure.
with the social media, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of ways we can market our product. And I had some deals with other publishers, and it just doesn't make sense financially
Mm-hmm.
when you go through a publisher. I mean, Berkeley Press was fine. I had a book. There's another book. I have 2 books on rhythmic improv
Mm-hmm.
by Advanced Music,
Mm-hmm.
if they're fine. It's just typically the composer, the writer of the book is going to get 10% of the retail, which is really not that much.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, it makes sense then
Yeah,
to do it on your own. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and with me publishing the books, I have control over, selling the books on Amazon, selling it on my website.
Mm-hmm.
I set the price. Um, it's work because we have to get the order, we have to, get the book ready, package it, ship it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if people are willing to do that, that's, I think, the best way to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Was there anything around when you studied, like in a written form, or was it you that actually got it to the paper then? Put
In
it.
in terms of improv, Simon?
Yeah, in terms of learning the vibes, learning jazz, learning theory, harmony, all those kind of stuff, things that in these days you have too much information. But back then, I'm not so sure about that.
No, yeah, these days there's so much information. Back then, with Gary, we worked on tunes pretty much. You know, we would do a few standards each week, split the lesson half and half on piano, half on vibraphone. We covered improv concepts, we covered voicings, harmony, reharm, and solo playing, especially for vibraphone. And then Gary taught the improv course. He taught more or less in concepts. And there were some books. I have some books from way back when I was a student.
Yeah, what was
But
that? How to improvise or things like that? Was that stuff around
that's
already?
Hal Crook, I think
Yeah,
it's.
yeah, right.
Yep. And that's a very good book.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Bergonzi has a series of good books. They weren't around back then.
Mm-hmm.
Hal's book actually wasn't around when I was a student, but came came later. And we did use that book actually for Berkeley, for
Mm-hmm.
improv. But there wasn't a lot. What I did is I studied transcriptions. I transcribed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, got some transcribed books of solos. Studied, all the greats. Um, Listened a lot, and sort of organized the concepts based on the transcriptions and what I heard and things like that, and then
Mm-hmm.
put all the the improv topics in the book, came up with examples, came up with solos, things like that. The improv series, the complete guide to improvisation, is four volumes. That took about 5 years to get all of that ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big project.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned before that I saw you when you came to Zurich to give a clinic. And do you recall you were traveling Europe at that time, doing different master classes, different countries, different jazz departments, or
I think what happened that time is I was in Zurich with a student, a Berkeley student, a vibraphone student. Her name was Natalie Dietrich. I think Natalie's
I think
in Basel now. I don't think she's in Zurich. Natalie's parents were outside of Zurich, and I think we did play. We played at a beautiful hall, I remember, in Zurich, and Natalie set up the clinic while I was there playing with her. So I think that's how that came about. Typically, what happens is when I get a clinic somewhere, maybe Italy or Switzerland or in Europe, I'll make more of a vacation out of it. And it's not like I'll be doing a tour from different countries. I'm really doing one or two, maybe a clinic or a concert. In Italy, sometimes I'll do a few days master classes, but pretty much I make it a vacation for my wife and I.
Oh, nice. So you were by the lake in Zurich,
Yes, beautiful.
probably.
Yeah, we stayed at a beautiful hotel and ate at some great restaurants. We love Switzerland. We love Zurich.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. We talked a lot about the good fortune that you had to study with Gary. Would you consider Gary also as a mentor, as someone that got you maybe? I mean, he got you work as a teacher, for example, right?
Yeah, no question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what I would have done? I probably wouldn't have switched to vibraphone from drums. Maybe would have switched to piano, possibly. But besides learning how to play vibraphone and learning about music, and then getting the gig at Berkeley based on Gary's, approval, that was life changing. So yeah, definitely my biggest mentor and influence, probably.
And what about those other familiar, well-known names that you worked with, recorded, or played with? The names that are written on your website. Can you tell us a bit how those collaborations came about and what that was like to play
Sure.
and to?
Well, I mean, you're a clarinet player, right, Simon?
That's right.
Yeah. So in terms of clarinet, I mean, the vibraphone and clarinet are just the perfect combination. And
Hmm.
there was a period where I was really into the, the Benny Goodman style with Teddy Wilson,
Hmm.
Benny Goodman, the big band swing era. I love that. I was really learning all the material from that era, listening to all those great players from that era. So because of that, I did an album called Swing on the Sunny Side with the great trumpet player Herb Pomeroy, who was
Hmm.
a legend at Berkeley, one of
Hmm.
the main, influence at Berkeley, and Dick Johnson, who led the Artie Shaw
Oh,
Big.
really?
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
that's
So
great.
that album was Swing on the Sunny Side, doing all standards
Hmm.
with Dick and Herb, with a great rhythm section, Barry Smith and Matt Gordy. Um, and used to do a lot of gigs at the hotels because people love that swing era music.
Hmm. Hmm.
And we played all standards from that era. Um, and then leading to that, another album was The Great American Songbook with Ken Poplowski,
Hmm.
who was another master clarinet player.
Hmm.
And again, swing era, more standards.
Hmm.
Warren Vacher, trumpet player, was on that. Dan Barrett, great trombone player, was on that. Um, and I just have played with a lot of great clarinet players, which I love the sound. Um, and then also being at Berkeley, people would come into school to do a clinic.
Hmm.
Uh, Schofield. Gary called in Schofield to do a clinic when Gary's out of town, so I would back up. Schofield just for comping on
Fantastic.
phone.
Hmm.
And I mean, Boston's a great town. People are coming in all the time, whether they're coming in to play a jazz gig or Berkeley concert, or clinic.
Hmm.
So it was a great time for playing with all the great players and sessions.
Hmm. I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about Dick Johnson because I missed him to watch or to listen or to get to know. I just know a couple of solos he played in front of the Ari Shaw
Mm,
band, and
yeah.
what a great player! But some kind of under the radar for a lot of guys. I don't know why, but maybe you can tell us some anecdotes playing with him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, Dick, in the New England uh,
Hmm.
area, he was really well known and one of the favorites of everyone.
Hmm.
Uh, Dick, you know, on stage he was like a kid. He loved to play,
Hmm.
and I think when he was playing with me and Herb, I'm thinking back now because he passed away a number of years ago.
Hmm.
Thinking he was in his 70s, uh, definitely late 60s, 70s. And once he got on stage, he was just so much energy and digging the music and loves to play. Talk about a player. I mean, his solos were unbelievable. Uh, Knew all the tunes, and Dick and Herb used to play a lot together. So they'd have things worked out. They knew, when to play the melody, background lines, all that stuff like that.
Hmm.
But yeah, Dick was a master player, and Dick used to play a lot with a great piano player called Dave McKenna, who
Hmm.
was also under the radar, not in New England, but probably in the world. And Dave was another master player.
Hmm.
And yeah, Dick used to play with all the great players. I was very fortunate. That was like, besides Berkeley, playing with Dick and Herb was another music education for me.
Hmm.
Being on the stage with those guys was just, you can't learn that from a book, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you played the Benny stuff more or less, or just swing tunes.
Yeah,
I
we would
mean,
do Benny
Flip,
stuff. Uh,
flip disc and things like that.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, some of the Artie Shaw. Dick had a lot of music arrangements that he did from, Benny and Artie Shaw. We used to do that. But basically, the hotel gigs that we did or concerts, we just call tunes like
Hmm.
Sunny Side of the Street and
Hmm.
Avalon and After You've Gone, that type,
Hmm.
you know.
Very cool. Hmm.
Yeah. Mm.
And when you compose, is it is there a pattern with you? Like you go with the chords first, with the melody, or on the vibes, or on the keyboard, or like
Usually it's on the piano.
on the piano? Hmm.
I'll sometimes I'll start on the piano, and then if I'm going to play it on vibraphone, I'll transfer it to vibes to see if it works.
Hmm.
But typically with piano, I have more to work with melody and harmony and counterpoint. Whenever I learn a tune or I learn a concept, improv concept, it's always on the piano,
Hmm.
and then I'll switch over to vibraphone. But initially, it's on the piano. And in terms of whether it's melody or harmony first, it's usually I'll start out with a melodic fragment and maybe a few chords, and they'll just sort of evolve from
Hmm.
there. Uh, but it's not melody only. It's usually the harmony. And I'm a big fan of Keith Jarrett's compositions. Love his playing. Love his compositions. So it's more along maybe those lines as opposed to a typical standard.
Hmm. Hmm. And like from the voicings and from the techniques, it's possible to adapt from the piano to the vibes. For example, like what piano players do, some do a lot like this, playing the diminished chord before like the tonic diminished chord, and then resolve it to the whatever major seven. Or is it something that you can have ready with with the mallets as well?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I mean, the whole Barry Harris thing with the diminished thing,
Hmm.
I use a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but I steal from everyone. So, Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, Mulgrew Miller is another favorite. Love Mulgrew's playing. Um, Bill Evans, I mentioned. Tatum, the reharm of Tatum was unbelievable. McCoy, all the great players. So I basically study those players. I
Hmm.
have transcriptions from those players' books and transcribed solos and recordings, and then work it out on the piano, and then I'll adapt it for the vibraphone. But yeah, in answer to your question, everything that those guys do, uh, I can use on the vibraphone. And I think one of the things that helped me as a player is not limiting myself to listening to vibraphone players,
Hmm.
uh, because you tend to get more of a clone if you only listen to vibraphone players. So I'll listen to mostly piano, but maybe guitar, sax for lines. But in terms of the harmony, I mean, when you listen to Chick Corea play Now He Sings, Now He Sobs from that album, or Herbie with Miles, Jarrett, Bill Evans, I mean, the list is endless. There's so much material. That's
Hmm.
why, and I'll never get to all of it, you know. That's the beauty in it.
Hmm. Right. Are you still teaching at Berkeley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm not there for the summer. I took the summer off.
Hmm.
Uh, took it off last summer too, but I'll be back in the fall. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. With the pandemic, it was online teaching
Yeah.
past few years, which is fine, but it's nothing like being there.
Hmm.
I'm hoping we can get back to the campus in the fall. I don't know how it is where you are, Simon, but things are okay here, but
Hmm.
there's some variants that are really contagious, so people have to be careful, you know. Yeah.
And you have like a class of 10 vibes player that study with you for their masters, or how can I understand this teaching of yours,
Yeah,
besides the ear training and other stuff.
yeah, we have. There's a lot of drummers, maybe
Hmm.
500. In terms of vibraphone players, maybe 10, 20.
Hmm.
Marimba players. There's a lot of different principal instruments at Berkeley. Orchestral,
Hmm.
marimba, hand percussion, drum set, mallets. Um, so I teach vibraphone lessons, but I also teach improv courses, ensembles, and mallet labs. So between those classes, I have a pretty good schedule.
Hmm. But if someone wants to learn how to play the jazz vibraphone,
Mm,
he comes to you.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Oh, Gustavo, I mentioned.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, basically, Gustavo and I are pretty much the jazz vibraphone
Uh-huh.
faculty. Yep.
Do you also have drum students or horn players that come for lessons just to play duo with you to learn something out of it? Is that
Yeah, yeah.
possible? Yeah.
Actually, I do. They Berkeley has a master's program called the Global Jazz Program,
Hmm.
run by Danilo Perez,
Hmm.
and the director is Marco Pignataro, and they have a really good program. And I'll have people from their master's program, guitar players, piano players,
Hmm.
study with me more for improv as opposed to jazz vibraphone. You know,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right. Mhm. Beautiful. Yeah. There was a lot of fun talking to you, Ed. I was
yeah. Same here. Same-
yeah, very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can play together someday.
That would be fantastic, of course. Yeah. I'm still thinking about that, how and when, and yeah. So
Yeah,
so you have some vacation now until you start teaching again.
yeah.
Some
I go
summer
back
holidays.
maybe first week in September.
Hmm.
So we have another what 6, 7 weeks to
Hmm.
go. So yeah, we taking some trips here and there.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah,
All right. I will send you the link because you have no idea how that looked like, right?
yeah. Yeah, that's okay. It worked out fine though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it worked out perfectly, and I thank you very much for your time and for your, yeah, down to earth being, and it was a lot of fun. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks for asking me, Simon.
Yeah.
All right.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ed.